Hi, this shoe with a review of the Reebok's first basketball shoe in a long while. Reebok tried to produce a retro type of some modern reinterpretation of the Reebok questions, answers, and whatnot, or the pumps, but they did not have a solid question in terms of bringing back some cushioning technology that's up to date. This Engine A, apparently a signature for Angel Reese. It's I'm glad this didn't come in a weird women's size. It's come in a proper men's size. For a size 9, it weighs about 405 grams, and it actually feels slightly lighter than what the digits show, but it's not, paper feather light. It feels adequately 21st century modern basketball light. The fit is a little weird for me. It feels like there's a bit of a wonkiness right here in the toe box. Not a crazy dead space, but a certain level of dead space. It's, as you can tell, it's got a pretty sharp edge here. So it feels like it's for people whose foot are like crooked inward like that. So, but at the same time, it's not crazy narrow. For some people, if you go true to size, you might feel a bit of a pinching sensation around the pinky toe joint area. But for really narrow people, really narrow foot who like a tight fit, if you go true to size, you might feel like there's a bit of a excess dead space every now and then here and there. So it's weird. So in some sense, well, try it on, see if it's a good fit for you. I feel like it's not, it's a bit too wonky for narrow footers. It's got some sharp corners for wide footers. So you can go true to size, but depending on your foot shape, you might feel some excess space or some tightness and discomfort. So that's weird. The good thing is that the lace loops go all the way down like a hyper or the foam position, like if composites and things like that. When the shoelaces are lower and closer to your toe, you can lock down better. But unfortunately, upper material is a bit flimsy. It does not have any exoskeletal fly wire type of thing. It's soft, that's good, soft and flexible, but it does not give you that clinging, locking down feeling. So even if you lace this shoe tightly, you'll feel your the upper kind of not locking down as hard as you wish it could. Overall padding is nice. The toe, the tongue is very nicely padded, not excessively, but just nice. And there's no pinching sensation anywhere. Depending on the shape of your foot, you might feel a slight heel slippage, slight, but nothing too terrible because it's well padded and it's well formed and forged. Yeah, the silver part, it's not like composite or anything hard. It's very soft and flimsy, so it's good and bad depending on what you prefer in a basketball shoe. The midsole looks crazy thick and wonky, but it's not as high off the ground as it appears. The heel especially is fantastic. They say it's a ERS energy return system with this tube-like shape, but it's not the kind of tube that has some air in the chamber like the ones they used in the previous Reebok pump models from the 80s and 90s. This is just a nod or an homage to that cushioning system. The foam itself, there's two pads on the heel and the forefoot. These red foams are sort of like, they say it's nitrogen-infused foam, but it's different from the kind of boost-like material that you see in anti shoes. It's like a in-betweener between Boost or those Bass companies pellets that's popped up like popped rice, the foamy material, that and ZoomX or React type of foam. It's like an in-betweener between that. But the heel shock absorption cushioning is incredible. I love the heel shock absorption in this shoe. It's not high off the ground, but at the same time, it's providing good impact protection. On the forefoot, unfortunately, it feels a little bit higher off the ground than it should, although there's a good heel-to-toe drop, so you don't feel that unbalanced, risky type of setup where you feel like your heel's kind of sinking and you might hurt your Achilles. Nothing like that. It feels very plain, or if not, the heel is a little bit more elevated than the forefoot. But the forefoot, I guess the foam material, they should have used something with lower density that's more forgiving compared to the heel. It feels like they have the same foam on the heel and the forefoot, and probably the forefoot is a little bit thinner, but it's not the density is not controlled. So even if you have that, you feel like the forefoot is a little bit harder than the heel. It's not as forgiving. That's a little disappointing. And that's why it feels a little bit more elevated. The great thing about the foam material is that when you put on the shoe, you'll feel that this is super soft, but I would say 50% of that is coming from this really thick EVA insole. You don't get EVA insoles these days, nothing this thick these days, and this actually really can deceive you into thinking this is a great, comfortable shoe. But again, this EVA foam is very easily compressed and molds to the shape of your foot. So you will feel like certain areas, pressure points will really sink down quickly. But regardless, even without this foam, you feel the nitro injected foam quite well in the heel, not as much in the forefoot. It's kind of like the early Boost basketball shoe from Nike, where you do see the boost visible on the forefoot, but you don't feel much. Sort of like that feeling. The outsole traction, do you remember these tractions? I remember them vividly. They're carbon copy, Control-C, Control-V from the shapes, patterns used in the Anti-Shockwave 5 and the Kai 1s. So, you know that pattern. It's great. And unfortunately for this one, maybe it's the material, maybe it's because they use a slightly different position angle. It does not feel as great as the Kai 1s or the Shockwave 5s. But while they do not give you a bite instant stop on a dime kind of traction, but it feels like it does not pick up dust as much as a lot of these stupid traction of these modern shoes out there. This is not as dust sensitive, but at the same time, it does not bite like crazy. So that's what you get. I mean, compared to the Anta Kai 1 or the Shockwave 5, it does not bite as hard, but compared to some conventional basketball shoes out there that don't provide excellent grip, this is pretty much above average tier. Outrigger, there's a prominent little rubber that's sticking out here, doing some degree of job in terms of preventing the ankle rollover. The base is not crazy wide, but it's not narrow either. Again, I go back to the forefoot being a little bit more elevated than it should, while not providing adequate cushioning that's soft and forgiving. So that actually adds to the instability on the forefoot. The pricing of this shoe, I don't think it's crazy for a brand that's trying to make a comeback with a shoe that they visibly put a lot of investments, time, and money into it. I think the price point is okay, because you see a lot of weird nothing burger shoe like the LaMelo Ball signatures that's got nothing much to offer. The 4 is almost exactly the same as the one that's released 4 years ago that's charging you $200. That's that deserves some F words. This Reebok, Shaquille O'Neal, you know, he tried to help out by producing his own sneakers that sell for like $30. That's the kind of mentality the big guy has, and I can feel that here. He is trying to do something great with this brand, and I think he's on the right track. But yeah, as for this, for serious hoopers, I think for casual hooping maybe, but for serious hooping, I would probably want something that's lower to the ground and a little bit more balanced.